Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. So I don't say good morning. The truth of the matter is, what the fuck's good about it? Morning's only good if you got money. It's just one more thing you do. You get used to. See, your brain doesn't know, your subconscious doesn't know you're full of shit. It doesn't. I.e. Hitler and what he convinced everybody of, okay? You would have thought that, and there were a few people that were against Hitler, but not many. And then he got rid of him, as he should have. That was negative energy for his movement. You won't do as good as Hitler did. You don't have to kill people to get rid of them, to get them out of your life. I've got some mentees, one of which is you're going to hear the last day. And actually, the last two is, it's not when we, of course, I haven't preached about this, words matter. Not when we. That implies that it might not happen. Every single person in this room has already said something like that when you ask me a question. It's not when. It's, or no, if we could. When you go to dinner, this is a bad example because all our staff did show up last night, but when you order from a menu, you guys say, most of you, could I have this, could I have that, could I have that? I say, I'll have this, I'll have that, I'll have this. Why would you say, could I? Because your whole life has been built around subservience, non-confrontation. And I can go on and on and on. Your whole life. When the guys went out on the first date, notwithstanding mine turned into a little old frump, chumpy frump, I didn't ask her, would you like to go out? I said, we're going out. And I've been this way my whole life. Because I saw how I didn't do what my dad told me to do because I got a lot of job, but I did what I saw my dad do. And he always did things in a positive manner. He assumed the close. And when we start talking about sales today, you assume the close. One or two of you mentioned it in one of the webinars. He assumed the close. He assumed that they're going to say yes, that she's going to say yes, that it's going to say yes. And when you change your vocabulary to adapt to and soon become the only modus operandi that you understand or follow, all these things are marginally important, but together they're massively important. They're massively important. I told somebody earlier, I guess yesterday, bankers, lawyers, and kind don't want to see me anymore. I mean, for a long, long time. Because they know when I come to the fucking meeting, one, it's going to be short. Two, I'm going to get my way. And three, I'm going to bust their fucking chops. There's a difference between a prospect and a suspect. Most of you don't know the difference, even those of you that are in sales. A suspect will talk to you, answer your call, meet you for coffee, go to lunch. A prospect is somebody who's going to buy some shit from you or you're going to sell some shit to him. Big difference. The Mercedes salesman and the BMW salesman that came here years ago, I already told you, he says, we've two different times, we've never heard so many ways to ask does it come down to cold calling. And they're big time car guys now. And it's sales 101, and that's why I recommend Dale Carnegie's sales course. It's a now 3-day course. It costs a couple grand. When I took it, it was a 5-day course, after work kind of thing, and it cost $600. So 1972, I don't know what $600 was in 1972. It's probably, I don't know, triple that, quadruple that now. And when you really believe, which is it's a hard thing to believe, that sales is a numbers game, and you're nothing but a salesman. The doctor didn't go to medical school to become a fucking salesman. Some of you that, a lawyer didn't go to law school to become a fucking salesman. Did you? You didn't. So you got to swallow that part of your ego. And for those of you that have PhDs, master's degrees, etc., MBAs, which are a joke, but anyway, you have to swallow that. You know, we had people in here with 16, 18 years education. 2 PhDs, an MD. Why in the fuck? Of course, their excuse is, I'm a scientist. I'm putting shit up in the sky. I mean, I don't give a fuck what you are. That's an awful long time to get educated. But you have to assume the clothes. Remember what the pig fucker said. You know, and I said, are you going to fuck her or are you going to sell her? And if you don't do that, kids, at best, you're going to succeed very slowly. And nobody in this room wants it slowly. Everybody wants it yesterday. They want the cash as soon as humanly possible. Nobody's in here for the 13-year program or the 12-year program. And the 12-year program was a astrophysicist, scientist from the Max Planck Institute, which you don't know what that means. If you were a scientist or if you were a Nazi, you'd understand what the Max Planck Institute is. And he came to the seminar. He came to the seminar 12 or 13 times in a row, paying each time. And then he used to write formulas, how it's not possible, this model. We're using their money to buy their business. I've got billionaire friends that still don't believe that you can use their money to buy their business. And then finally he went to the hardcore, and we had 5 or 6 other Nazis there. And it sounded like, I can only imagine what Hitler's war room sounded the last 3 or 4 days before, everything collapsed. And then he saw they had done it. And then the universal, I guess you can do it. 13 years, though. And then, being the German that he is, he went crazy. And he's done, hundreds of millions, arguably billions of dollars, billions of euros in deals. But he was positive this didn't work. I went to a wedding 25 years ago. One of my mentee's daughters got married, and there were a couple billionaire guys, of which you would know the names. And they said, are you still teaching people how to buy their own, but you're buying their business with their own money? I said, yeah. And then I saw him at a funeral. That mentee died, and I was at a funeral about 8 months ago. Same guy. And he asked the same question. He always asked the same question. Donald Trump asked me the same question in 1993 when I was at the grand opening of the MGM Hotel in Las Vegas with my 2 boys that were little then. And are you still buying people's business with their own money? Yeah. They just shake their head. Down deep inside, you don't believe it. You're going to hear 10 more people say the same thing. But intuitively, why would somebody allow you to buy their business with their money? And you put up nothing. How's that possible? Remember, your subconscious doesn't know you're full of shit. Now, there's 8 billion of us now, supposedly. It's probably already 8,050,000 or something. Intellectually, this is a stretch. All 8 billion can do this, intellectually. That's not really true. We got, 20 IQs, vegetables, whatever, but let's just say they can all do it. But emotionally, only 0.0001 can do it. So that's approximately 800,000 people on the planet. And that number's high. It's not really that high. And that's why, even though I have not met or been introduced in any way, shape, manner, or form of the 99.9% of the people that have succeeded with QLA, because they do it, they don't come here. It's fine. We've had success stories you heard Gabriel, who already was successful, and then he came here, that are able to do it. They don't do it as smoothly, perhaps, as a person that has followed the steps, but on the other hand, you're not going to follow the steps any more smoothly than somebody that never came here. So why spend the 35 grand or whatever it is, depending on your currency? Fear is the reason you're here, not inspiration. Because you want to be able to tick that one last box, if there wasn't one last box. Well, I went to the seminar, so that should not ensure, but increase my odds of being able to do this. You heard the Goombas yesterday said they had made a couple of acquisitions before they got here. They thought they had done well, and then after being here, they realized they didn't do so well. But they still would have made a lot of money and got rich and richer than they were. But now they're getting richer easier, not using their own money. There's pressure on them, but it's not the same kind of pressure that when you're using your own money. As far as I can tell, and I'm a great prognosticator, I'm almost superhuman in predicting the future, vis-a-vis finance, not anything else. Love and shit like that. That's what I just use the wrong number because I know most of you are going to have different partners 5 years from now. Most of you will. Or you will have blown your brains out. I just know it. Having gone through thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of cases, and nobody's got the same partner anymore. I'm Trump exaggerating now, but almost nobody's got the same partner anymore. One can conclude with a high degree of probability that either were you. Either were you. And the couples that come here, when the wife or the female part of the partnership normally knows by yesterday noon, the guy's going to be history. And when they land wherever they're landing, she tells him, when the guy figures it out, he wants to have a couple more fucks before he tells her. A woman will tell, no, don't touch me. And that's the way it is. I mean, I have countless letters. But I know this class is going to be different. I say the same shit to everybody. I know this, I know Bag of Bones is going to be different. I know. Yeah. That's a lie. I'm in the category of, Ty Lopez, I'm going to give you a tip. But you like hearing lies. You like hearing smoke. And when your parents told you, for the few of you that had some aspirations, or they had aspirations for you, that you can be anything you want in the world, that's the biggest fucking lie there ever was. Because you can't be anything you want to be. In the United States, there's 4 or 5 schools that you had to have gone to. There's 6 or 8 families that you could have been part of. The Kennedys, the Bushes, et cetera, et cetera. But you can't be. Because what they don't say is you can be anything you want to be if you work 120 hours a week until you're almost dead. And then you got to have a little serendipity and a little luck. Then, maybe, you can be anything you want to be. I had 4 times legitimate opportunities to run for politics in my life. 1981, 1983, 1988, and 1990. 1981, I was voted a Hispanic Businessman of the Year, which didn't mean shit. I was allegedly the richest Hispanic in America. And I said, when I was interviewed, in that awards up there someplace, if I'm the best we've got, we're fucked. That's what I said. In 1983, I was on the front page of the LA Times, which is up there. We got a Pulitzer Prize. And I said again, if I'm the best we got, we're fucked. And they wanted me to run for governor in both times in California. Big Hispanic population, big Hispanic vote. Then in 1988, I was the guest of the Democratic Party. Chuck Manette, who was the chairman of the Democratic Party at the time, I was his guest at the National Convention. And again, at this time, they wanted me to run for governor in Texas, because I had built up my dynasty, as they say in Texas. And I went there and I spent 4 or 5 days. I was so turned off by what goes on behind the scenes. And if it turns me off, it's got to be ugly, because I can stand anything. But I was so disgusted, as Sally would say, with what goes on behind the scenes in politics that I said, thank you very much. And then the last time, 1990, again, they wanted me to run in Texas. Governor Hugh Carey, Chuck Manat again, and former Secretary of Treasurer, the guy that got shot with a bullet with Kennedy, Governor Connolly. I've seen that bullet hole. It's a huge, big fucking hole in his leg. And we're in the men's grill. God rest his soul. He was very nice to me. And he's sitting there with a towel over him. He's having a sandwich, a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich with a beer in the men's grill. And everybody that walked by, you can't help. I mean, the fucking hole looks like this. The magic bullet that went through Kennedy's head and then did a zigzag and a belly flop and then went through, Governor Connolly's leg. They were my sponsors, and I said no. And now, 20-some years later, 30-some years later, I haven't jumped in with both feet yet, but I'm about to jump in with both feet because now I have the time. I didn't feel I had the time. And I certainly wasn't interested in being the first Mexican president of the United States. And I certainly wasn't interested in saving anybody. And I didn't think, because if I was asked that in a press conference or a newspaper, I wouldn't lie. I was asked at a focus group we had here about my politics, and a lady in the back said, "How are you going to get people to vote for you if they don't like you, Mr. Peña?" And I said, they have to dislike where they are in life. How's your program worked out? More than they dislike me. And that's how I'll get elected, because they're unhappy. Remember, 87% of the people on the planet don't like where they are in life. But after and I haven't read your homework for tonight, but after going through and looking at some of it again, we still have people that are thinking with a bubble wrap around them, with the training wheels on the bicycles. Even after hearing the 2 horror stories of Sunder, we still have people, because you can't just get rid of it overnight. I mean, if you've been inundated with this information on the news, to the extent that you keep up with the news, newspapers, television, the internet, information is almost instantaneous now. And all of it is pretty much bullshit. I recommend, to the extent, because I'm not you, I can listen to 4 or 5 news programs on TV or in the internet, read, and send emails all at the same time. I listen to Bloomberg, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, which is the Arabic station, and a mixture of that news is the truth. The closest to being 100% true is the Arabic station, Al Jazeera. That's the closest to being absolute, straight up, legit. But all the rest are full of shit. I like Fox just because I'm a right-winger, but I mean, most of their shit is full of shit too. But I like them just because of, if the Klan comes back, they're going to come back on Fox. And that's just the way it is. And this is exactly the same way I talk to the focus groups and the meetings that I've had, because I won't lie. I won't lie, because that's what all the politicians do. There may have been 2 or 3 honest politicians since time began. Maybe Abe Lincoln was one. Maybe. I had to struggle for a second one. Maybe Teddy Roosevelt was one. And Teddy Roosevelt was a coward, and it was brought up like a goody two-shoes. And so he wrote a book about it. But you can get over being a cunt. You can get over being a coward. And it's by running towards real gunfire, not pretend gunfire like we talk about. Another guy that was a coward was Winston Churchill. And he knew that, and that's why he participated, one of the reasons, he participated in the last cavalry charge of a modern army, last cavalry charge. But that's not going to happen with you guys. There's no more Hades to take over. And that's why, one of the reasons I did that. But really, the program is not for 800,000. Numerically, it's 800,000. It's for 200,000 or 300,000 people on the planet, maybe 200 or 300. Because I've certainly, even though that's only about a quarter or a fifth of the people that can be on the Wall of Fame, because they don't want the notoriety. Sally says all you want the money, but most of you don't want the notoriety. Part of that reason is because of taxes. Unfortunately, a lot of my kids try not to pay taxes, and they get in trouble. They get a Shylock lawyer to write them a letter that they don't have to pay taxes in Bolivia or wherever the hell it is. And there's only 6 or 7 places on the planet that you don't have to pay taxes. If you're an American citizen, you're taxable on worldwide income, no matter where the fuck you live. But you can get a Shylock lawyer that writes you a letter that says that's not true. There's a famous Shylock lawyer in London. His address is Buckingham Palace. He's right across the street from Buckingham Palace. So somehow that leads you morons to believe that his opinion is worth more because his office is across from the former queen, now the king. I know you saw the movie last night, and if I remember correctly, it's Nick, the greatest tennis coach of all time, and he doesn't know how to play tennis. That's the bottom line. I could just give you a piece of paper with that, and yet you want to know. Not the how, but the why. Can't remember any of his wives. I've talked to him a few times. I tried to get him here a few years ago, and then he tried to get me to go to New York for the New York Open, the tennis open, and I was conflicted vis-a-vis time. And he's a cranky old bastard. But at last count, he's got about 187 or 190 or 195 world champion tennis players that he coached. And he doesn't know how to play tennis. How is that possible? How? It's like Josh Kim learned how to write code over a weekend, got a job. Well, I think code writing is the biggest joke, biggest hand job. It's foreplay with never coming. That's writing code. It's foreplay with never having an ejaculation. It's the biggest fucking joke. Comments about Nick. Yes, sir.
In a former life, I had more steroids in my body than blood as a powerlifter, and I would visit Louis Simmons at Westside Barbell, the strongest gym on the planet. And when he would do interviews, the people interviewing him wouldn't get how Louis could be so crass and cold towards people because he didn't give a fuck about you unless you were a world record holder. And I felt that same cunt, douchebag, lazy energy from the guy interviewing Nick. He kept asking the same question over and over.
Oh, stop. Just like you ask the same fucking questions. Now, some of you are afraid to articulate the questions because now, at this stage of the seminar, I'll jump down your fucking throat and pull out your tonsils. But you got the same questions because you're a cunt. Go ahead. By the way, I was filled with steroids. I used to weigh 287 pounds. My goal in life was to weigh 300. I was a big motherfucker. I couldn't get through that door, half of that door. I did everything humanly possible to get to 300 pounds. I was probably 10 or 12% body fat. So I wasn't one of those cut I was one of the Hulk-looking kind of guys. I didn't go to him, but I went to everybody and his brother how to get bigger. How do I get my arms to be 20? Biceps, okay. How does this? How does that? You know, how can I squat 800? And they didn't want to talk to you unless you had a world record, and I was certainly nowhere near a world record. I wasn't as strong. I was strong, but not strong for my body size. I think that's the way they used to put it. For 287 pounds weight, kid, you ought to be able to lift more. Okay, I benched 400 pounds. Actually, that's a lie. I benched 395 pounds. They didn't put the collars on. I never came close to 395 again. And I have to catch myself because I like to dream that I benched 400, but I didn't. I benched 395. Anyway, but the coaches that I had then, I had a former Mr. America. I wasn't interested in what my body looked like, unfortunately. Or just like Nick. Just the opposite of you. Anything else about Nick? Yes, sir, in the back. Doc.
The players that they interviewed around Agassi, the ones who didn't make it, they had tons of stories of why they had, if Nick did this, if Nick did that, or if I was, whatever. But I didn't see any ownership or understanding of themselves.
They didn't take responsibility. Just like you. Have you taken, other than coming here, have you taken responsibility for the actions of your life? No. We had a kid that went to Nick's camp 20 years ago who sat in the back corner. I still remember back there. Now, I wasn't there for the movie because I leave, right? He sobbed, I'm told by you guys, through the whole movie. And when we were doing this part of the seminar in the morning, talking about the movie, he sobbed. He had to get up and leave. He couldn't, because he was there 6 years. And the bottom line is you have no idea how fucking miserable it was if you weren't the Agassi. You have no idea how he treated people with this. If he had treated us with disdain, that would have been up the ladder. And if, God forbid, you lost in a tournament, you were less than dog shit. He used to make the people wait on the other people. The losers in tournaments had to wait, hand and foot, shine shoes, clean their rooms for the guys that won in the tournaments. And of course, the guys now they're learning how to treat people poorly. And almost all the high performance people I know, with one or two exceptions in my long career, are just like that. On the camera, they'll sign your autograph, blah, blah, blah. But don't touch me. And I've been like that my whole career. So when Corona came around, as I said in one of the webinars, unless you got big tits, blonde, and on your back, don't touch me. I've been saying that for 29 fucking years. And now when they were going like this, I said, God, if you wait long enough, and my dad once told me, if you live long enough, Dan, everything comes to fruition. So I went through about 2.5 years not having to shake hands, and I didn't do that, and nothing. Don't touch me. What else about Nick? Yes, sir, in the back.
Nick just do things no matter if the people see it good or bad. He don't care. He just go forward.
Not dissimilar. Don't confuse me with the facts. Now, arguably, he made 2 or 3 world champs that shouldn't have been world champs if they hadn't been beaten to death, abused by Nick. How bad do you want it? How bad? Now, I'm not going to be there to beat you. Although, in webinars, these were 2 or 3 years old, so we're not showing them right now because they're not current. Every time I was going to step on my dick, I heard somebody whisper, "Fuckface, you're stepping on your dick." You're going to hear a couple of people later on today and tomorrow. When they wake up, the music, instead of the music, it's me screaming at them to inundate themselves and to program themselves to get them on the QLA track. But how much misery are you willing to take? Once you get past the first deal or so, the misery diminishes geometrically. Why does it diminish geometrically? Because now you know you did it like the big guys. Now it's just a matter of how many times can you do it before you run out of energy, or in your mind, make too much money. I told you a lot of people say $1 billion, and after they make $200-300 million, I never hear from them again. Or I read about them in the financial newspapers. And it's the young guys that mostly I lose contact with, because it's easy to fall off the rails when you're 19, 20, 25 years old. I mean, it's easy to fall off the rails. All of a sudden, you think that you're prettier now because girls are more attracted to you. And it's not, I already said this, has nothing to do with your looks. Although you may buy more expensive suits, you may do this, you may have a better car, you may get a plane, but the fact that you have money's a magnet. They used to say, when I was a kid in the hood, a car, the 57 Chevy convertible was a hot car. I don't know why I didn't like it, but anyway, it was a chick magnet, they used to say. Chevy, because in my neighborhood, you couldn't say Chevy. 57 Chevy. It was a chick magnet. And you can get a lot more chicks in a convertible than you can a car with a top. Because they said on the back, the thing where the top goes down. So one of the first cars I got a Cadillac Eldorado convertible. It was pale blue. The only thing it didn't do, those cars that bounce up and down? It didn't bounce up and down. But other than that, I just could ease into the hood. If I had darker skin, I could look like all the rest of the kids. What else about Nick? Yes, sir.
He had an interesting philosophy of blocking out the past and just focusing on the present and moving forward.
Don't confuse me with the facts. And now that he's older than that, he's about 10 years older than that movie. I mean, he's blocking out, and I think it's because he's just getting old. He's blocking out even some of the good things. Okay, YouTube. Thanks.